What could this old math teacher possibly know about nuclear physics? The FBI agent said dismissively, looking at the 85-year-old man standing in the community college classroom. But Robert Sinclair just smiled that calm smile he'd worn for decades. Because what the agent didn't know was that those weathered hands had once calculated the equations for the world's first atomic bomb. And now, with a nuclear meltdown threatening an entire city, America needed those calculations one more time. You see, some secrets are buried for good reason. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share. But when 200,000 lives hang in the balance, even the most carefully guarded truths must come to light. This is the story of a man who helped end World War II, then spent 70 years teaching children arithmetic, until the day his past caught up with him. Welcome to Echo Stories. Before we begin this incredible story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from, and if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Riverside, California. Population 315,000. A quiet inland city where retirees play golf, families raise kids, and life moves at a comfortable pace. At the Riverside Community Center, every Tuesday and Thursday morning, you could find Robert Bob Sinclair teaching basic mathematics to adult learners. At 85, Bob was exactly what you'd expect from a retired math teacher. Wire-rimmed glasses, cardigan sweaters, a gentle voice that never rose above a whisper. He drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic, lived in a modest ranch house, and had taught at the local community college for 30 years before retiring. His students adored him. "Mr. Sinclair makes algebra feel easy," they'd say. He had a gift for breaking down complex problems into simple steps, for finding patterns where others saw chaos. But if you asked about his life before teaching, Bob would just smile and change the subject. "I've always been good with numbers," he'd say. That was all. What nobody knew was that Robert Sinclair had been very good with numbers his entire life, extraordinarily good, the kind of good that changed history. It was 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, when the first alerts began screaming across emergency channels throughout Southern California. At the Riverside Nuclear Generating Station, 30 miles east of the city, something had gone catastrophically wrong. The facility's cooling systems had been compromised, not by accident, by design. "We have a level 4 nuclear emergency," the plant director announced to the gathering crowd of federal agents. "Someone has hacked our primary cooling systems and locked us out of all safety protocols. FBI Cybercrimes Unit, Homeland Security, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Department of Energy." Within 2 hours, the parking lot of the nuclear facility looked like a federal convention. Agent Patricia Wong, FBI Nuclear Terrorism Task Force, studied the readouts with growing dread. "How long before we reach critical temperature?" "At current rate of increase, 18 hours, replied Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the plant's chief nuclear engineer. "After that, we're looking at a full meltdown. Radiation zone would extend approximately 50 miles. That would include Riverside and Los Angeles and 6 million people." "What about the backup cooling systems?" Agent Wong demanded. "Compromised, all of them. Whoever did this knew exactly which systems to target." Dr. Mitchell pulled up a schematic on her laptop. "The hack was sophisticated. They didn't just shut us down, they changed the fundamental parameters of our safety algorithms. To reverse it, we'd need to recalculate the entire cooling matrix from scratch." "How long would that take?" "With our current team, maybe 36 hours. "We don't have 36 hours. Agent Wong stared at the numbers scrolling across the monitoring screens. Each digit represented hundreds of degrees, thousands of lives. "What would it take to do it faster?" "We'd need someone who understands both the original mathematical models and the current quantum computing systems. Someone who's been doing nuclear calculations for decades." Dr. Mitchell shook her head. "But most of the old-school physicists are dead. The ones who are alive are too old to work under this kind of pressure." "What about universities? National labs?" "Already contacted. Lawrence Livermore is sending a team, but they won't arrive for 6 hours. Los Alamos has 2 experts en route, but they're flying from New Mexico." Agent Wong felt the weight of 6 million lives pressing down on her shoulders. There has to be someone closer. That's when Dr. Mitchell's phone rang. It was her daughter calling from Riverside Community College. Mom, I know you're dealing with the plant crisis, but I just wanted you to know my math professor is asking if there's anything he can do to help. Honey, this isn't really the time. I know, but Mom, he said something weird. He said he's familiar with nuclear physics calculations from his time at Los Alamos. Dr. Mitchell froze. What did you say? My professor, Mr. Sinclair. He mentioned he used to work at Los Alamos. Probably just maintenance or something, but what's his full name? Robert Sinclair. Why? Dr. Mitchell was already pulling up personnel databases on her laptop, searching through decades of classified records. Sinclair, Robert ... there. Buried in a file marked Manhattan Project, classification level top secret, Robert Edwin Sinclair, mathematician, Los Alamos Laboratory, 1944 to 1946. Specialization, nuclear chain reaction calculations, security clearance, Q level. Agent Wong, Dr. Mitchell whispered. I think I found our expert. 20 minutes later, FBI Agent Wong and Dr. Mitchell burst through the doors of the Riverside Community Center. They found Robert Sinclair in classroom B12, calmly explaining fractions to a group of adult learners. Excuse me, sir. Are you Robert Sinclair? Bob looked up from the whiteboard, marker still in his hand. I am. Can I help you? Agent Wong flashed her badge. FBI, we need to speak with you about your background at Los Alamos. The room went silent. Students exchanged confused glances. Bob's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. Recognition, and perhaps relief? I wondered when this day might come, he said quietly. Sir, we have a nuclear emergency. We believe you might be able to help. Bob set down his marker and turned to his students. Class, I'm afraid we'll need to continue this lesson next week. As the room emptied, Agent Wong got straight to the point. Mr. Sinclair, according to our records, you worked on the Manhattan Project. Is that correct? Bob removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly. I haven't spoken about those years in 7 decades. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't a matter of national security. Bob looked out the window toward the mountains where, 30 miles away, a nuclear facility was slowly spinning toward catastrophe. What exactly do you need to know? Can you still do the calculations, the nuclear physics, the kind of work you did at Los Alamos? Bob's smile was sad and knowing. Agent, I've been doing those calculations in my head every day for 70 years. You can't unlearn the mathematics of splitting atoms. As they drove toward the nuclear facility, Dr. Mitchell couldn't contain her curiosity. Mr. Sinclair, what was your actual role in the Manhattan Project? Bob stared out the window at the desert landscape. I was 22 years old, fresh out of graduate school at Caltech. They recruited me because I could do quantum mechanical calculations faster than their early computers. You worked on the bomb? I worked on the mathematics of nuclear fission, chain reactions, critical mass calculations. His voice was matter-of-fact, but Agent Wong caught the weight behind his words. My equations helped determine how much uranium would be needed for a sustainable reaction. That's incredible. That's what I've spent 70 years trying to forget. Dr. Mitchell leaned forward. Why? You helped end the war. You saved lives. Bob was quiet for a long moment. Have you ever calculated exactly how many atoms need to split to vaporize a city, Dr. Mitchell? Have you ever done the mathematics of mass destruction? The car fell silent. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I left Los Alamos. I swore I'd never use that knowledge again. I wanted to use mathematics to build things instead of destroy them. So I became a teacher. And you never told anyone? My wife knew. She died 12 years ago, after that. Bob shrugged. Who was left to tell? The nuclear plant's emergency command center buzzed with activity. Computer screens showed rising temperatures, radiation levels, system diagnostics. Bob took one look at the displays and his expression grew grim. This is sophisticated, he murmured, studying the data. Whoever did this understands nuclear physics. Can you reverse it? Agent Wong asked. Bob was already moving to a computer terminal. Dr. Mitchell, I need to see the original design specifications for your cooling systems. Those are classified. Dr. Mitchell. Bob's voice carried an authority that hadn't been there before. I helped design the first nuclear reactors in human history. I think I can handle your cooling system blueprints. As the blueprints appeared on screen, Bob's fingers moved across the keyboard with surprising speed. Numbers cascaded across the monitor. Equations that looked like advanced physics to everyone else were, to Bob, a familiar language. "The hack changed your thermal exchange coefficients," he said after 10 minutes of intense calculation. "But they made an error. They assumed your cooling system operates on 1940s physics." "What do you mean?" Bob pulled up another screen, his fingers flying across the keys. "Modern reactors use quantum-corrected thermal dynamics. The hackers used classical physics in their override code." Dr. Mitchell looked over his shoulder. I don't understand these equations." "You wouldn't. This is Manhattan Project mathematics. We developed these formulas before quantum computing existed." Bob's eyes never left the screen. "But the principles still apply." For the next 4 hours, Bob worked with an intensity that stunned everyone in the room. He calculated thermal coefficients that hadn't been used since the 1940s. He cross-referenced quantum mechanical equations with classical nuclear physics. He did mathematics that existed in perhaps 3 or 4 minds on Earth. "Temperature is still rising," Dr. Mitchell announced. "We're at 2,100 degrees. "I see it." Bob didn't look up from his calculations. "Give me 10 more minutes." Agent Wong watched the old man work. His fingers moved across the keyboard like a pianist performing a complex symphony. Numbers and symbols filled screen after screen. This wasn't the gentle math teacher she'd met that morning. This was a mind that had helped unlock the secrets of the atom. "Got it," Bob said suddenly. He turned to Dr. Mitchell. "I need you to manually enter these cooling parameters into your emergency override system." "Are you sure these calculations are correct?" Bob looked at her with those gentle eyes. "Dr. Mitchell, I've been doing nuclear mathematics since before you were born. Trust me." Dr. Mitchell entered Bob's calculations into the emergency system. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Alarms continued to blare. Temperature readings continued to climb. Then, slowly, the numbers began to change. 2,100 degrees. 2,090. 2,080. "It's working," Dr. Mitchell whispered. 2,050. 2,000. 1,950. Within an hour, the reactor had stabilized. The cooling systems came back online. The crisis was over. The command center erupted in relieved cheers. But Bob just sat quietly at his computer, staring at the screen full of equations he had hoped never to use again. Agent Wong approached him. "Mr. Sinclair, you just saved 6 million lives." Bob removed his glasses and cleaned them again. "I suppose that makes us even." "Even? For Hiroshima, for Nagasaki." He stood up slowly. "For all the calculations I did 70 years ago." The story never made national news. Nuclear emergencies, when resolved, tend to stay classified. But in Riverside, word spread quickly. The math teacher at the community center wasn't just a math teacher. When Bob returned to his classroom the following Tuesday, his students were waiting with questions. "Mr. Sinclair," asked Maria, a nursing student working on her math requirements, "is it true you worked on the atomic bomb?" Bob considered the question. For 70 years, he'd avoided it. But looking at these eager faces, people who'd come back to school to better their lives, to learn, to grow, he realized something had changed. "I did," he said simply. "Were you scared?" "Every day. We were 22, 23 years old. We were changing the world, and we had no idea what that would mean." "Do you regret it?" Bob was quiet for a long moment. "I regret the necessity of it, but I've learned something over the years. Knowledge itself isn't good or evil. It's what we choose to do with knowledge that matters." He picked up his marker and turned to the whiteboard. "Now, who wants to learn about exponential functions?" 3 months later, Bob Sinclair still taught math at the Riverside Community Center. But now his classes were packed. Word had spread that the gentle old professor had once calculated the mathematics of the atomic age and had used that same knowledge to save lives. He never spoke about Los Alamos again, except to say that mathematics had given him 2 chances to change the world. Once in 1945, once in 2024. "The equations are the same," he told a reporter who managed to track him down. "It's the purpose that changes everything." Bob continued to drive his Honda Civic, wear his cardigans, and live in his modest ranch house. But now his students knew that behind those wire-rimmed glasses was a mind that had touched the very fabric of the universe. And sometimes, late at night, Bob would sit at his kitchen table with a cup of tea and work through equations just for the joy of it. Not nuclear physics, not weapons calculations, just pure mathematics. The kind that builds bridges, designs buildings, and helps nursing students calculate medication dosages. The kind that makes the world a little better, one student at a time. Sometimes the most extraordinary people live the most ordinary lives. Sometimes the heroes who changed history spend their later years teaching fractions and explaining algebra to adults who never got the chance to learn it right the first time. Robert Sinclair helped split the atom and end a world war. Then, he spent 70 years putting the pieces back together, one math lesson at a time. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, support Echo Stories by subscribing. See you in the next video. And remember, that quiet teacher who changed your life might have changed the world before you ever met them.